Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to Mindful Combat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan, and it's my platform where I do fight sports related content. If you're new here, why don't you help me grow my platform? All you have to do is hit that subscribe button, like the video if you like it, and maybe hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a video. With that said, in this video I'll be breaking down a potentially very fun fight that could happen at 170 pounds, and that's between none other than the breakout star of 2020, Khamzat Chimaev, and the Brazilian wild man, Michel Pereira. Now, I'm sure I'm going to slaughter the name, so forgive me for that, but this is a really fun fight, and the reason I'm proposing it is really quite simple. So I know everyone's jumping on the bandwagon that Khamzat should be fighting a top 10, top 15 guy at either 170 or 185, and that's not what Pereira is. Pereira isn't a top guy, but what Pereira is a Brazilian wild man, really unpredictable, a guy who's got tons of experience in mixed martial arts, and a guy who's an athletic specimen. And actually, there's a little bit of animosity between these guys when you look at what happened between Pereira and Khamzat's good friend and training partner, Chimaev, and I think he even put up a post about that, and sorry, not Chimaev, Salim Chimaev, and Khamzat even put up a post about that fight and talking about it. And I think this is a really fun fight, especially when you consider the fact that Khamzat's only 9-0 in his career. Debuted in the UFC all of 3 months ago, and he was 6-0 when he started. So there's no reason to rush him. I've always been a guy that likes to enjoy a fighter's growth up the division, up the rankings, and let it all play out naturally. Don't rush it, don't force it, because the more you force it, the more you get guys that ain't ready for that main event spotlight pushed and having it thrust on them, and then they either swim or sink. But a lot of times, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to reach their potential, and that's what I really hope doesn't happen. This is a great fight, and it will be a good measure of his skill set, just where he is, before we move further. Anyways, without further ado, let's go into the fight and break it down. They're both 26 years old, both young, both in their prime. That shouldn't make a difference here. And they're both relatively, new in their careers, even though Pereira has a record of 24 wins and 11 losses. He's had 35 professional fights. We're talking a lot of fights in the regional scene, a lot of fights over in Asia. He hasn't really been fighting at UFC caliber for long. He's only 2-2 in the UFC, but he's still a very respectable talent. And because of the way he fights, that really makes him stand out. Khamzat is of course 9-0, undefeated, 3-0 in the UFC. And he's still very, very young in his career, but this would be a good opportunity for both these guys to get their profiles out there. Khamzat stands at 6 foot tall, Pereira is 6 foot 1, so 1 inch taller, but Khamzat actually enjoys a 2-inch reach advantage with a 75-inch reach as opposed to Pereira's 73-inch reach. So that's something that we should remember and should know. To describe their styles now, so Khamzat, of course, we've seen him wrestling, we've seen him that he's very dominant with wrestling and his ground and pound, and we've seen that he's got one-shot knockout power on the feet. And having seen a lot of his outside of UFC fights, I would describe him as really being quite well-rounded. He carries big power, he's got good boxing, I think he's even got good kicks and he's got good wrestling, but really there's a lot of unknowns right now because we haven't seen him tested, so we haven't seen his style really play out through a long fight against a really credible talent. So that's very interesting. Now, Pereira's style is a lot more fun in a lot of ways. I would say that Khamzat's is very fun as well, but Pereira's it's to do with his natural athleticism. He likes to do wild stuff like backflips and spring off the cage and run and jump and show. He's a showman, that's what he is, and he likes to show off in the cage and just look fancy in front of the world for everyone to see. And it can be fun, and he could get incredible wins, or it can be bad and he could end up suffering bad losses like he has in the UFC. But he's that type of a fighter, is an all or nothing type of fighter. Either he puts together an incredible show, or either he doesn't and he gets laughed out of the arena. But still, he's fun to have around, and this would be a really fun fight to see how Khamzat would deal with the backflips off the cage and that kind of stuff. So it would be funny. Their key wins. Now, of course, neither of these two men have beaten any top 10 or top 5 staples, but they've still got some good wins. Now, for Khamzat, if we're looking at his UFC wins, he's beaten Reese McKee, who's a very talented European prospect and actually a former Cage Warriors champion. That's not nothing to be laughed at. John Phillips is a veteran in the UFC and a veteran of European talent. Again, that's another very credible talent. And Gerald Meerschaert is a very experienced veteran with 12 fights in the UFC. He's been around for a long time. He's had 45 professional fights. That's a good win. And then for Pereira, the only win that really jumps out at me is, of course, the Danny Roberts win. Danny Roberts is a very, very talented fighter with great stand-up. And the fact that he was able to look so good against Danny Roberts still stands out to me. That's a good win. And of course, the Salim Chimaev fight, that is Khamzat's friend. So that's one of the reasons why I'm even proposing this fight and doing a breakdown on this fight. So that's their key wins. Now, when we're looking at the issues for Khamzat, I think the obvious issue that stands out for me is that he's untested. We don't know how good he is. We don't know how good he'll do when the pressure's on him. We don't know how he'll do when the fight goes on. We don't know how good his conditioning is. But by all accounts, he's got great conditioning and he's the real deal. I'll love to see it though. I'm very, very excited. And then for Pereira, I think the issues are obvious. He's too wild and he's too... he expends far too much energy trying to be a showman. So if he doesn't get an early stoppage, which probably isn't likely here, then he'll probably gas out and then he'll end up suffering as a result of it. The X factor for Khamzat is going to be his wrestling, his ability to take the fight down, and his punching power. He's dangerous on the feet, dangerous on the ground. He's just flat out dangerous. For Pereira, I think his X factor is going to be his same thing that is his issue really, is his unpredictability. And like Khamzat, how does Khamzat prepare for that? This is not a fighter that you can really start to understand. He's just wild, so it's difficult. With that said, let's get into the prediction. Now, I'm a big fan of Pereira just because I enjoy having fun characters in the sport. And whilst he's a fun character in the sport and I enjoy watching him, I'll probably watch all of his fights, there's a reality to the fact that he isn't world class. And he's not world class, maybe not because he lacks the talent, but because of his mindset and the mindset he comes into every fight with, and that's being a showman. I think Khamzat would be able to utilize that to his advantage. I think he will gas himself out early with Pereira, and then Khamzat's wrestling will take over, and I think he'll take him down and maul him. On the feet, I actually think this is probably a good fight, and I think Pereira could actually do a lot of damage on the feet, but I think Khamzat would ultimately be able to take him down, control him on the ground, and pound him out for the stoppage. I think Khamzat will win this fight, within the first 2 or 3 rounds by stoppage with his ground and pound. I think Khamzat beats Pereira, and that would be a good way for him to set him up to fight a top 10, top 15 guy. Again, beating a 35-fight professional veteran who's, so unpredictable and an athletic specimen, that will really stand out for me. And I really hope this fight gets made because it's fun. It doesn't always need to be about rushing to the top 10, top 5 guys. This is a fight that stands out to me. It's one that I want to see, and I would love to know you guys' thoughts on it. Let me know if you guys even want to see this fight, or if it's just me, rushing ahead of myself and that this fight shouldn't necessarily be being made. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. If you're new to the channel, remember to like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Thank you for watching. As always, I'm Rohan, and this is Mind for Combat.